Hi, it's Denise and Veronica from Harambe Consulting Group, and we're here today with Rob Hoadley, who works for Team Life, a company that sells automated external defibrillators. And we're happy to have Rob here today to talk about saving people's lives. And this has personal meaning to me because a friend of mine lost her 16-year-old son to sudden cardiac arrest at a swim meet. So, Rob, why do you think it's important for group homes and people that have businesses have an AED at their site?
Oh, well, thank you for that. Thank you both for having me. I'm really honored to be here. I actually know your friend Susan, and I know that she's an amazing person that's turned tragedy into the ability to help others, which ironically is a lot like Harambe. The original meaning for that is that we all pull together to help each other, right? Well, one of the reasons, kind of a story. So I ride motorcycles, and I ride one motorcycle, mine, right? But my friends and I went on a motorcycle ride from Canada to Mexico, a beautiful long ride. But we were in the mountains of Northern California, right by the border by Oregon. And it was a beautiful day. Everything was perfect. And we were riding through. But before that ride, we had done a lot of preparation work. Now, riding a motorcycle is inherently risky or dangerous almost sometimes, right? And we had done a lot of prep work and like changed tires and changed brakes, changed the oil, got new tools. We're really prepared for this. And we had a plan, and we were going along with the plan, and everything was beautiful. It was a beautiful sunny day, and we were going through a twisty, windy mountain road. And I was the second person in a group of three. The first person made a really sharp turn, and I went right behind him. Only he had missed some gravel in the road, but I had taken the turn a little bit tighter and hit the gravel in the road, and that gravel adjusted me enough to where now my motorcycle was pointed off off the side of the mountain. I was at speed, right, and I was moving, and now I found myself in a position where unplanned during a risky operation, but really thought everything was going fine. And I used those tires and brakes to save my life, literally, because I would have gone off the side of this mountain with no guardrail. I didn't think about those tires and brakes as insurance at the time, right? But I mean, I have insurance on my bike, I have health insurance, I have life insurance, all those things, much like a business just a going concern, a business would have insurances of different kinds. And there are things that they put in place and they plan for, and they put in place in different ways that they prepare for risk that they wouldn't call insurance, but really turn out to be insurance. Now, a defibrillator is one of those things. Sudden cardiac arrest kills 370,000 people a year. In fact, is the number one killer in the United States, is the number one killer in the workplace. So having a defibrillator on site is one of the ways, is the only way to correct a cardiac arrest, but is one of the ways to prepare for this eventuality should it happen. It's happening, it's in the news more and more. There's more of a light being shown on it now. Thank goodness that there's more awareness. And I'm so happy about there's a lot of AEDs out there. There's a lot of companies out there selling them, and I'm happy to be part of that movement. Um, what I would caution folks is to get a plan in place that includes a cardiac emergency response plan. So a lot of businesses have emergency response plans where, okay, you're a floor warden, or if there's a fire, you put this vest on and tell people to go that way or whatever. And that's fantastic. But they don't have fires. You know, that's not what happens. What happens is somebody gets cut really badly or someone goes into a cardiac arrest. Those are really typically the kinds of things that would really cause a trauma at work. And what ends up happening is they're woefully unprepared because they either don't have the AEDs that are right here behind me, or they don't have a trauma kit that's right here behind me, and they just don't know what to do. And then the bystander or that coworker that's trying to be a first responder, it's like, whoa, man, I don't really know. I don't want to hurt them. I don't really know what to do first because you go into lizard brain, the cortisol and adrenaline gets shoved into your body, and you're like, I don't really know. You call 911 and you wait. Well, those precious minutes of a 9 to 12 minute response time could be the difference between life and death. And that's what gets me up in the morning, knowing that I could make that kind of a difference in somebody's life.
Can you talk about the different kinds of defibrillators? And I know that they have some that are new on the market that are portable and that you can carry in your purse or pocket.
Well, sure, I would be happy to. There's a really nice range of defibrillators that range not only in price, which is a lot of times the biggest concern for a going business, but also in functionality. And that's really where I try to draw my line and what I will support and what I try to put out into the world. Like so, Susan, your friend, and I have put some AEDs into schools that have the functionality that we both agree with should be available to a lay rescuer during a rescue. Now, a couple of things to consider when getting a defibrillator is obviously the cost, but we can talk about that in a moment. But the functionality, like what was there in the past, what functionality was there when people survived, what was actually available, and then more to the point, also what was not there, what did we not have, and how can we as an industry get that into a device so that it's available for the next bystander that wants to help somebody with cardiac arrest. So different defibrillators will give you rescue energy at different levels. Okay, there are some that do it at just a fixed level. Okay, which if you need exactly that, then good for you. But others will escalate that energy on subsequent deliveries of rescue energy. So if that first initial shock doesn't work, it will automatically escalate that energy. We have found that escalating energy is something that will save more lives. It just has. Even if you watch a medical show and they say charge to 200 and they charge and they shock the person, it's because it's drama. It usually doesn't work the first time, right? So then the next line, right? What do they say? They say charge to 300. But why is that? Well, that's because they are escalating rescue energy. That's why. And that's so the medical professionals won't say, that's not how we do it, because it actually is. That's how they do it. They will escalate that energy. Will it always be 200 and 300? Maybe not, because they have manual defibrillators that they can look at a rhythm and make an educated, like I'm a doctor or a physician assistant, and I can actually change that setting and charge and shock at a different level. An ambulance has the same kind of technology where they can actually change it and say, okay, shock now, boom, at 168 or at 215 or however many joules they think they need based on the rhythm. But interestingly, these three AEDs behind me, all three of them have escalating rescue energy. Okay, now the ambulance is going to, ironically, there's an ambulance going by my house right now. But ironically, the ambulance has a $30,000 monitor on their ambulance. Okay, and there's no business that is going to buy or needs to buy a $30,000 monitor, right? That's not going to happen. But all three of these devices are less than $2,000, and all of them have that escalating energy. Additionally, something that I don't know how comfortable either of you would be in doing CPR, or anybody watching this would be doing CPR. I see you shaking your head, Veronica, right now. You're like, no. And I don't know if that was just automatic for you, or if you actually decided to shake your head. But a lot of people are scared of that, and I don't want you to be. Here's why: because these three devices behind me will tell you if you're doing CPR right or not. Not all the devices will do that. Okay, so the better devices will tell you not only that, like, so the two devices on either end, the green ones from Zoll Medical, that's who makes those. They will give you real CPR help. They'll tell you to press harder, and and when you start doing a good compression, they'll tell you good compression. So you'll know, like, oh, okay, not only is it positively affirming, but it's also letting you know, hey, muscles, when we just did that, that was correct. Let's repeat that. Okay. And it gives you guided steps on how to do CPR, including that. The one in the middle, the orange one, that one actually, that's the one that Susan Carr and I use when we do our donations. That one will tell you to press slower, press faster, press softer, or press harder and fully release. And that's important when you look into what a compression really is, because the three components of a compression are the rate, like how fast you're doing it, the depth, like how far do you go down so you make sure you compress the heart, but then also the recoil. How are you opening that heart back up so it can fill up with the maximum amount of blood? So when you push it down again, that's the maximum amount of blood that's going to go through your brain and vital organs. Okay, so it's rate, depth, and recoil. So those are important differences.
So, for someone who's never taken a first aid CPR class or used a defibrillator, can you
Huh?
explain to us how that works? So, does somebody do they do compressions before they use the machine or after, or how does it, can you explain how that works?
That's actually a fantastic question, and it's one of the things that I cover when I do my education and when I come out to folks. And it depends on how many people are there. Okay, so if there's only one person, if you're by yourself, that's the scariest. That's the oh my goshest part of all of it, right? If you know there's a defibrillator nearby and you see somebody that has dropped and you stop and you tap them, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? And they're not responding, the education now is to go get that defibrillator that you know is there. If you don't know it's there, don't do that, right? Don't just go looking for one. If you know one's there, go get it. And then grab it and come back to the scene, call 911, hit send on your, I mean, because everybody has a cell phone, right? Because, back in the day, Denise, we would go like this, right? But that's not what we do anymore. We do this now, right? So you would call 911, send speaker, and put it down, because now you have two hands and you have the dispatcher that's going to be on the phone with you. And so one of the massive things that's growing that's really we're really thankful for is dispatcher led CPR. So that dispatcher is going to lead you through that CPR. So if you're by yourself, get the AED first, come back, call 911. If you don't know where one is and they look like they need your help, then just call 911, hit send, hit speaker, put it down, and start compressions. And because here's the real honest truth of that, Veronica, if somebody lets you put your hands on them and push their chest in like that, if they just let you do it, they need your help, right? Otherwise, they're like, man, stop! What are you doing? Get off of me, man. Okay, so that's if you're by yourself. Go get the AED first, then call 911 or call 911 on the way if you want. Okay, I don't want anybody on the video to be, oh, that's not exactly right. I'm like, look, this is going to be a chaotic situation for you. What the first thing that person's going to say? They're going to say, are they breathing? You're going to say no. Are they responding? You're going to say no. And so those are two key words for a dispatcher: is unconscious and unresponsive. And that to them means cardiac arrest. Okay. The next question they're going to ask you is, do you have a defibrillator? And if you have gone and got it, then you can say yes. If you've already started compressions, they're probably going to tell you different organizations might tell you differently, but more than likely they're going to tell you don't go get it. Keep the compressions going, because you need to keep that blood going through their brain, because if they survive this, if you continue that blood going through, then they're going to have a better quality of life. That's why I'm still here. Oh, because we didn't talk about that part, right? Because April of 2011, bystander CPR saved my life. So I am currently a 23-time cardiac arrest survivor. And that is statistically bonkers, to put it scientifically, I guess. But it was April 1st, April Fool's Day of 2011. I was at work and I collapsed in a meeting, and I was able to get bystander CPR immediately by somebody who learned CPR when he was 11 years old in summer camp, and he was 52 when he saved my life. It's a huge gap in between training, but it was hard and fast, center of the chest, and that's what saved me. My point is that now I'm here. That's why I'm still here doing this, is because I know that this is important work. I know that this saves lives. I know it. That's why I love working with Susan. That's why I love working in organizations around the country. That's why I still am in this business, because, sales is not fun. It's not easy, right? Begging people for meetings and begging people for money. But I know that what the information I'm bringing has value. So that was a little tangent, but I just want to point out that that's why I'm speaking so passionately about this, because it is a personal connection from me. So that's why I do this. So when you're by yourself, get the AED first, call 911, hit send, hit speaker, and then listen to what they say, and they'll guide you through CPR and still help relieve you. Now, if there are two people, right, and you recognize somebody's in distress and they need your help, tap and shout, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? And you do that for 10 seconds max. 10 seconds. And again, if they let you start compressions and pushing on their chest, if they're not breathing and they're not communicating with you, my friend Maureen O'Connor says, no, no, go, which means if they're not breathing, no, they're not talking to you, then go get an AED, right? That's no, no, go, right? And then there's a call, push, shock, which is another three saying phrase, right? But if you notice somebody's in distress, you have two people or more, then you would simply say, oh my gosh, he's not responding. You, Denise, call 911. You, Veronica, go get the AED and come back to me. Okay. And now that's what I want, is both of you to do this, or give me a verbal, yes, I hear what you're saying. Right. And Veronica, I need you to come back to me, because some people will get the AED and feel very empowered to then now take over the scene and say, okay, ambulance, come in here. You go over there and call the risk manager. It's like, no, 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 I need you here. So come back to me. But while you're doing that, while you're calling 911 and you're going to get the AED, I'm going to tell you, I'm starting compressions. So I'm going to start compressions however best I know how to do it. Okay. That's what I'm going to do, hard and fast in the center of the chest. That's because what we're trying to do is mimic that heartbeat, that bump, 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 bump. We're trying to do that by pushing the heart down and open it up. That's what we're doing. Okay. So now I'm going to do that until you get there with the AED. Once the AED is there, all you have to do is open it up. The ones I have will talk to you and tell you exactly what to do. You open it up and it tells you exactly where to place the pads. Now, important, don't stop compressions while the pads are going on. If there's only one of you, you have to, right? You can't do everything, with only two hands, right? So, but if I'm doing compressions and you bring the AED, then you put it on, put the pads on, because I'm going to keep compressions going. And that device is going to tell me, do not touch the patient, analyzing heart rhythm. Then I stop. Okay. I'm not manipulating the heart. So the device can actually get an accurate reading on it. Okay. So now it's reading on it and it'll tell me shock advised or shock not advised. If it says shock not advised, it'll say shock not advised, continue compressions. Okay. If it says shock advised, shock will be delivered in 3, 2, 1, and we'll shock. Shock delivered. It is now safe to touch the patient. If needed, continue compressions, continue CPR. Okay. And that's if needed, because that first shock might actually wake them up. That might bring them back. And how would you know that? You would know that because they would start moving their arms a little bit. It's purposeful movement is what they call that. Okay. And that's when you would stop CPR also, because you know that they're moving and their brain is moving and their brain is working. So the 2 times you would stop CPR after you've started it would be either the ambulance has arrived and someone has relieved you, not when help arrives. Because if you could imagine yourself at a baseball game, like if you guys are in the Bay Area, so like at a Giants game or something, and the help pulls up in front of the baseball park, in front of the stadium, now they have to get to you. If we go by the logic that when they arrive, that's when we stop, then it could be 20 minutes before they get up there. If you're up there in the cheap seats where I sit, you know what I'm saying? It's just not going to work out. So you have to keep going until you are physically relieved, like they move you out of the way. Okay. Or that victim wakes up and says, hey, stop, I'm okay. Or stop touching me. That hurts. Right. So those are the 2 times you would stop CPR. If you're alone, you go get the AED and call 911. If you have 2 people, it's you call 911, you get the AED and come back to me. If it's just the 2 of you, if it's just 2 people, then have that person do both things. Call 911 and go get the AED. Okay. And you can start your compressions. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Any questions about any of that?
Yeah, is there any like resources you recommend for how to learn how to do CPR?
Absolutely. So there are several training agencies out there or companies that provide training. Like Team Life provides training. We initially started as a training company in New Jersey, and then we realized, hey, the training have to learn how to use an AED is great, but if you don't have an AED, then you not wasted the training, but it would be better served if you had one. So then Team Life started selling defibrillators also. And we did the first aid, and then we started selling the trauma kits also, right? um, so there are a lot of them. There are some, and if you wanted to contact the Heart Association, www.heart.org, I think is their they have a way that you can find a training center, and you just go on there and you find a training center in your area, and that's a national program that will lead you to the right information and the right qualified people to train you. And AHA, American Heart Association, is considered to be the keepers of this science. Okay, so they have the answers that you need. So that's where I would go if you don't know anybody in particular. Now you can, people can contact me too, but uh, I mean, this isn't intended to be a sales call. It's really more of a informational thing. So AHA, I think, would be a great place to go.
Awesome, thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, actually, I do. There's just a couple of little things. Running a business and running a family, or just living your life can be difficult, can be messy, can be traumatic. We all have our own things that we carry with us through life, and it takes involvement with other people to get through those and get the most out of life. Um, One of the things that I like the most about the job that I do and the work that I do with stuff like this and interviews like this is that after a scene like this, if you have someone that collapses, even if they don't need a defibrillator, but they're taken away in an ambulance, there's going to be some trauma there left with you. And so critical incident stress management is very important, and taking care of yourself and taking care of your mental health, and the people around on the periphery are also going to need some of that help as well. And the reason why that ties in here is because the devices behind me that offer that CPR feedback, that tell you if you're doing it right, because the real fact is that 9 times out of 10, someone with cardiac arrest outside of the hospital is going to die. There's a 10% survival rate. That's real. And, that's real. And what's going to happen is the people around that scene, or the people that have put hands on that chest, are going to be impacted. They will never be the same. So the devices behind me that offer that CPR feedback, at least, if there's anything that can come out of that, that person can get in their vehicle and go home and know they did everything they could. That's what I really want them to have. So if they have a device that does the escalating energy and gives them CPR feedback, they do everything that device says to do, I have got to believe it is going to be easier to reconcile. I did everything I could versus, did I go hard enough? Did I push fast enough? When I broke their ribs, did I kill that person? Well, the answer is no, you didn't do that. You didn't kill them. But I don't know if you went fast enough. I don't know if you went hard enough. But if the device tells you, that can be very powerful for the longitudinal PTSD of that event. And that's something that I don't hear enough talk about. I hear a lot of talk about new devices. I hear a lot of talk about new programs, but not a lot about what the longitudinal impact is on everyone around that survival or not, right? And I just want everyone to know that here in San Diego, we've launched a program called Revive and Survive San Diego. We are training 1 million people on hands-only CPR. We don't have a time frame on it, but we're really clicking off pretty quickly, and that number's growing really fast. And we're really happy to see this support and success that's happening through the county EMS and UCSD Medical Center. but that's happening right now. And we know, I know, as a cardiac arrest survivor, that it's going to be bystander CPR and bystander response that is going to raise that level of survival in the United States from 10% to higher than that. And I appreciate you providing this type of a forum for someone like me to just kind of say what I feel and give very real, accurate, and timely information on exactly what's happening with AEDs and why they were so important in the business world. And I'm happy to meet with anybody to expand on that or discuss very specific situations, because not everybody is the same, right? So Microsoft is a different business situation than Steel Lighting that I went to deal with them or to a meeting with them in LA, and they have a really small place with like 8 people. So, it's not the same. So I'm happy to talk to anyone about specific situations.
Okay. Is there anything happening at the policy level? I know in our industry, we're required to have first aid. And surprisingly, community care licensing does not require CPR. Our other funder, which is Regional Center, does, so most people have both. But is there anything going on the policy level that is that people are working towards making sure that folks who are in the caregiving business have those skills?
I I'll say yes to that just generally. Specifically, I will say that instead of focusing on specific disciplines, the legislation that I know of that's already in effect actually, when you talk about business responsibility, is uh, is actually focused on the buildings themselves. Like how many people what's the capacity of your building? What is the function of your building? There's a building code 139100 that addresses that specifically. The health and safety code 1791 196 actually addresses that specifically, and it talks about different types of buildings. And one thing that kind of slips by sometimes is that if you own the building, own a property, and you've made over $100,000 in tenant improvements in a year, you have to have an AED.
Yeah, okay.
You have to add an AED, and I can forward all that legislation to you so that you can put it up as well. But I encourage people to look at that legislation that's existing, not necessarily just for your discipline, but for also just for a business owner and what that responsibility is. And once you have the AED, what those responsibilities are. I have all those. I stay fully abreast of that. Currently, there are 2 pieces of legislation in Washington D.C. that are being looked at that again aren't specifically for your discipline, but they are they're pieces of legislation that are calling for more federal funding for AEDs and for CPR training and for cardiac emergency response plans to be put into place. But they're calling on existing funding that's already there to help make that a possibility. So that's the HEARTS Act and the Access to AEDs Act. So if you want to talk to your representatives about that at the federal level, those are the 2 acts that are right now in motion right now in DC. I was just in DC with the Heart Association trying to get those passed. That was a great question. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate you.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. If anyone has any questions, they can absolutely contact me at rob@teamlife.com, or my phone number is 619-993-2282.